Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki, and welcome to the 441st Imagine Greater Buffalo program and another wonderful virtual Imagine lecture hosted by our Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. We're going to start with our speaker shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our speaker's presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels, and we hope you share it, the link with your friends and networks. Now, our featured speaker today, Msgr. Paul Burkard. Msgr. Burkard's years as a priest have been involved in Catholic education, diocesan administration, and pastoral ministry. Teaching in a Catholic high school, college seminary, and graduate seminary, serving in various diocesan administrative positions, pastoring parishes with Catholic elementary schools, and administering a large human service agency, Our Lady of Victory Institutions, now called OLV Human Services. He has given lectures, workshops, and retreats throughout the United States, Canada, and Japan. He has served as the president of a National College Seminary Association, a member of the National Catholic Education Association's Board of Directors, and consultant to the National Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Priestly Formation. He is a recipient of the National Catholic Education Association's Presidential Award for Outstanding Service to Catholic Education. Msgr. Burkard is the author of several articles on theological issues, church vocations, and formation concerns, as well as issues in social psychology and religion. I enjoy doing this program just to help us all see the great talents that exist here in our midst. Certainly, Msgr. Paul Burkard is one of those. So let's give him a good welcome. Msgr. Burkard, take it away.
Thank you, Dennis. I also want to thank the Public Library and all the people who are associated with it for inviting me to do this session. I am the pastor emeritus, the retired pastor of Our Lady of Victory Basilica in Lackawanna, New York, around the corner of Ridge Road and South Park Avenue. And I am also the point person here in the United States for the canonization cause for Monsignor Nelson Baker, whom the Catholic Church today calls Venerable Nelson Baker. We're celebrating here at the Basilica a 100th anniversary of the beginning of the building of the Basilica. On August 14th in 1921, the cornerstone for the Basilica was laid. The church opened for Christmas Eve in 1925. So about 4.5 years for the construction of the Basilica. Since then, it's stood as a place of prayer, certainly, a place of peace for people in Western New York, of all faiths, not just Catholics, but for all faiths. Catholics in the Western New York area, I think of the Basilica as their second parish. If they have a geographical parish near their home, they belong to that parish. But most of them consider the Basilica to be their second home. And so we have people from all over Western New York and outside the area and around the country coming here to visit. For the Centennial, which will take place the next couple of years, the theme is All Are Welcome. And that has been, I think, the invitation from the Basilica to people all over the world for this last 100 years. All are welcome here. I'm going to ask Leah, if she would do that, please, to put a drone video up. It's our symbolic piece for the Centennial, and it'll give you an idea not only the complexity but the beauty of the Basilica. So Leah, if you don't mind running that, that'd be great. Thanks, Leah, for running that. I appreciate that. As you can see, and if you've been here to visit Our Lady of Victory Basilica, it's a very beautiful, a very complex building. It's built in a very specific kind of an architectural style. It's late French Renaissance architecture. To me, late French Renaissance architecture means that inside that building was brought together the craftsmanship and the art skills of so many different people, painters, stained glass manufacturers, sculptors, woodworkers. All those people have contributed their talents to building a church in a particular style. And all of it was designed in order to give glory to God for the wonderful talents that people had, the very wonderful artistic talents that people had. And again, if you have been here to visit, or if you haven't, you're certainly invited to do that. You'll see, I think, the complexity and the immense beauty. It's really a treasure here in Western New York. We have served over 100 years as a legacy of Father Nelson Baker. Many of you know the story of Father Baker. He was born here in Western New York. He served as a priest here, came to this area of Lackawanna shortly after his ordination in 1876, and spent most of his lifetime here, not only as the pastor of the parish, but also a person who, with great vision, cared for orphans and delinquent children and unwed mothers and people who needed physical and medical care. He called this area of Lackawanna here on Ridge Road in South Park his city of charity. And the building of the Basilica, I think, stands not only as a tribute to him as the founder, but also a monument to his idea that people in Western New York who needed care, people in Western New York who were vulnerable, especially vulnerable children, had a place here where they could see a meeting of their needs through the acts of charity that he undertook here. Over the years, he had thousands and thousands of orphans under his care. In the Protectory, which was actually a reform school for young delinquent boys. He had hundreds and hundreds of children in that institution. And He cared for them as well as cared for unwed mothers, making sure they had a safe place to deliver their children. And if they were unable to care for their children after birth, they would be placed in the orphanage, then fostered out or adopted out through the program here. And we continue all of that here. Any given day here at Our Lady of Victory, we have 4,000 children or families under our care. Our mission is particularly vulnerable children, children who are in special needs of one kind or another. And we have a huge staff, nearly 1,000 employees working to care for those people. But the Basilica building is a great monument to all of that work of Father Baker. People used to say to Father Baker that the Basilica was his crowning glory. But he would say to them, no, my crowning glory is the success of the children who lived here on the property. And when they left here, went on to lead productive lives. And we still hope that we continue that mission here today. We're a bit of a cultural center for Western New York, not only being the second parish for most Catholics, but we also have kind of a cultural dimension to us. We just hosted weekend after Thanksgiving, the BPO's production of The Messiah. We've been the point church in the area here for significant events in Western New York. We were the place for the final ceremony of funeral for our former mayor in Buffalo, Jimmy Griffin. We were the funeral location for Tim Russert. Many of you would know that in Western New York. And many other cultural and artistic events take place here. And all of the population of Western New York is invited to this. We're very happy to have anybody come here, people of all faiths. We already have people of all faiths visit here. Before COVID, and we're a little bit hampered by COVID, before COVID, we would get 40 to 50,000 pilgrims and visitors here a year from all over the world, and people of all faiths from every part of the globe that you could possibly think of. People come here not only because of the beauty of the Basilica architecture that draws a lot of people, but also because it's the final resting place for Father Nelson Baker. He is buried in the Basilica, and people come here to pray at his tomb. They've heard things about him, or their family has experienced his charity over the years, or the charity of the institutions here over the years. They come here for kind of spiritual solace, for comfort, and for prayer. It's always a pleasure to have people here. We invite people to come here all the time, and the church is open from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, 24 hours a day, every day of the week, 365 days a year. So it's always accessible to people. And I'm always amazed at the variety of people who come here. Some dedicated to their faith, others looking for faith, others just looking for a place of peace or comfort here in Western New York. There's a lot more about the Basilica and a lot more about Father Baker at our website, olvbasilica.org, and you can always check that out and see more information about the Basilica building and also the ministry here on the property, and also Father Nelson Baker. Lots of things happen around here. We are the point location for the canonization for Father Baker himself in the Catholic Church. He's on the second of 4 steps to canonization, to sainthood in the Catholic Church. And we know that eventually he will become a saint recognized by the whole church. So lots of things are happening here on the property in addition to that and our social work program, lots of cultural and artistic events taking place here. So my invitations to everybody, come see the Basilica, visit here. There's almost somebody always around to talk to if you want to learn more. Tours are available, and you can go online and schedule a tour for a small group or a large group. We're always happy to have people come to know the place better and to get acquainted with what happens here at Father Baker's City of Charity. Let me kind of end there, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions. And if anybody has any comments, I'll be happy to take those as well. So let me turn it over to you folks for your input.
Leah, folks, we're going to ask you to send to Leah in the chat box any questions you have. Monsignor Burkard, you mentioned a cultural, that the building itself serves our community and well beyond as a cultural center. I wonder if most people are even aware that there's a wonderful museum in the lower level of the church that tells the story that you've just outlined here in a few moments. But do you want to comment on that?
I'd love to. When I got here 15 years ago, we had so many artifacts and memorabilia from the past, from the history here on the property, and particularly of the life of Father Baker. And I realized it needed to be put out there so that people could see the wonderful history that took place here. And so the idea of expanding what was then the existing museum came to my mind. We spent about a year planning the museum. Hadley Exhibits here in Buffalo, who are a museum creation corporation, was the people who did the layout for it. And it tells chronologically pretty much the story of Father Baker, his life, his ministry, and also the legacy that he left behind in Our Lady of Victory Human Services and Our Lady of Victory Charities, which is our fundraising arm here in the property. It's open the same hours that the Basilica is open. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's open until 4 o'clock each afternoon, but it's available for people to walk through. Again, guided tours of the museum are also available if anybody's interested. But it's marvelous things that remind us of the past on the property here, but things that also remind us of what's happening here and leading us into the future. So they have a great museum, and we're proud of it. It's been here for 10 years, and it still continues to hold up. I think not only the beauty of the place, but also the majesty of the place and the seriousness of the mission here.
And just to build on that mission, just for a few moments, Father Baker had a strong faith in Our Lady of Victory. And there's a story behind that name, Our Lady of Victory. Can you just touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, the title Our Lady of Victory, and of course it's a title of Mary, the mother of Jesus, goes back to 1571 and the Battle of Lepanto off the coast of Greece that year, where a relatively small Christian fleet was going into combat with what was the rather large Ottoman fleet at the time. It was an attempt to preserve Christianity in Europe by overcoming the Ottoman influence that was washing its way across Western Europe. In one battle, at the Battle of Lepanto, the Pope at the time, Pope Pius V, had asked Christians to pray for the success of that battle. And in the end, the very tiny little Christian fleet defeated the rather large Ottoman fleet. And the Pope declared that day of victory, the 7th of October, as the feast of Our Lady of Victory, feeling that people had prayed to her through the rosary for the victory of that battle. And the victory actually was accomplished. So it became known as Our Lady of Victory. And after that, the devotion spread across Europe and was brought by Europeans to the New World when they came to colonize and then later on to settle in the United States.
Very nice. Leo, do we have any questions from our audience?
We do have a few questions. Someone asks you to speak to the red and yellow umbrella.
In the Basilica, I certainly be glad to do that. In the Basilica, there are two symbols that designate a church as a basilica. And a basilica is a title given to a church by a pope because of its cultural and religious significance, or because of its importance in a particular area. We were the second named basilica in the United States. In 1926, just after the basilica opened, the Pope gave that title to the church here. In every basilica church in the world, you'll find two symbols that designate it as a basilica. One is the red and gold umbrella, which is in our church on the upper right-hand corner of the church. And across the church from that, in the upper left-hand corner, a very ornate bell. Both of those are papal symbols. They would be used theoretically if the Pope were to come here in leading the procession into the church, the bell and the umbrella. The umbrella is left at half open position until it's ever actually used, and then it will open all the way and be used in the procession when the Pope were here. So it's a symbol of a basilica church, and you'll only find it in churches that are designated as basilicas.
Very interesting. And what has been the success rate of the thousands you have helped? Are you able to find families to adopt all available children?
For many, many years, adoption was one of our major ministries here. We had a lot of international adoptions from Russia, South America, China. Interestingly, international adoptions worldwide have pretty much dried up for lots of political and or cultural reasons. And so while we still do facilitate adoptions here, we have a history of thousands and thousands of children who lived here over the years who have been adopted out. We still have contact with many of them. We still have contact with many of their families. Many of them have passed away over the years, and their families still keep in touch with us. And so I would say that the success rate for adoptions here is extremely high. And we are able to kind of point to that by the wonderful dedication and the commitment of families who had either been adopted from here or who have children who were adopted from here, who continue to keep in touch with us and support us as well. So it's been very successful.
That's good to hear. Could you expand on any special holiday activities at Our Lady of Victory?
Our Mass schedule and our liturgies daily, as well as the holidays, are online at that same email address, olvbasilica.org. But we do have midnight Mass on Christmas Eve. We have Masses at 4 and 6 on Christmas Eve, and then 8, 10, and 12 on Christmas Day. The Sunday before Christmas, we have lessons and carols here in the afternoon. And so we're already entering into the Christmas season by our celebration of Advent. And every year, as I mentioned before, we kick off Advent by the BPO production of the Messiah here. And it was a wonderful experience as usual. And the church was just crammed with people who were glad to be here to hear it.
Great. And our final question asks, what are the 3 remaining steps for sainthood for Father Baker?
There are 4 steps in the church for creating a saint. Father Baker is on the second of the 4 steps. And the first step is when the Vatican accepts the case for canonization. The person who is being considered for canonization is given the title Servant of God. That opens the door for the production of a huge volume about the person's life, their ministry, and testimony of people that knew them. When that is completed, and it has been in Father Baker's case, that was completed in 2011, the Pope accepts that, and then Father Baker moved to the second step, and he's given the title Venerable. So he's now Venerable Nelson Baker. That step opens the door to the production of a miracle that can be attributed to Father Baker. Once that is approved, and we're still working in that area right now. Once that approved, he would become blessed. That's the 3rd step for canonization. So he'd be Blessed Nelson Baker. And the 4th step would be, again, contingent on a miracle attributable to Father Baker that would be accepted by the Vatican, and then he becomes Saint Nelson Baker. So we're on the 2nd of 4 steps and moving ahead. We've been slowed down a little bit in the process because of COVID. I've not been able to get to Rome to work with them because of the COVID restrictions. And we do have a representative in Rome that works on our behalf. and he's not been able to get out of Rome because of the same thing on his end. So we're hoping that once COVID has come to a kind of a resolution, we'll be able to get back full steam to the canonization process.
Very interesting. And this is just my own question, but what miracle has been attributed to him?
We don't have, we don't have a miracle yet, and we're working on that one at the present time. In fact, just the other day, I received in the mail some additional information that's going to help us to move in more succinctly into that process. So we are still working on that particular one, and hopefully we'll have a acceptable miracle that will be approved by Rome, and then he'll become Blessed Nelson Baker.
Those are all the questions.
Leah, thanks. And that was an appropriate question. You know, this is the Imagine series, Monsignor, and wouldn't it be interesting in our lifetime to imagine Pope, hopefully Pope Francis, coming to Buffalo, preaching from that particular spot that was designed for a Pope if he came to Buffalo in your Basilica, and here a border town. So the issues of immigration are front and center, always to the Pope, and this community has certainly been a welcoming spot for many immigrants from all over the world since its founding. So it has a lot going for it as a reason for a Pope to visit. Maybe comments on that for a second, but that's my imagination.
And that's your imagination. Mine as well, Dennis. I'm glad to have him. When I last spoke to Pope Francis, I extended that invitation to him to come. That's not always the easiest thing for a Pope to build into his schedule. But however, he knows he has the invitation. It's an open invitation for him to come anytime he's able to do that. And we look forward to it when it happens. We have had one person who was later than their life elected Pope, Pope John Paul II, when he was Cardinal Wojtyła. He visited here, but we've not had a reigning Pope so far, but it's more than imagination for me. It's a great hope that the Pope would get here someday.
Good. And then something you can control, I'm curious, you mentioned October 7th is an anniversary date of the Feast of Our Lady of Victory. Do you have a service at all on that date? And I was thinking, were all of the Father Baker's children are invited to attend, and their descendants and families. Do you have something like that and use that as the momentum for finding any miracles that people suddenly start to talk about when they gather like that, and to spreading the word nationally that Father Baker is an important element of this area and their future lives because of the experience they had there.
Absolutely. And we do celebrate October 7th as our feast day. That's the feast day of the Basilica, Our Lady of Victory. We also celebrate the weekend closest to Father Baker's death day in July, which is the last weekend of July, as Father Baker Day. And both of those highlight Father Baker and the mission that goes on the property here, and everything that we send out. And we have thousands and thousands of people that who are in contact with us and communication with us. We always send them information, and we always ask for them to send us any information that would be helpful in moving Father Baker's cause ahead. So we're always trying to get the word out there, and obviously we appreciate everybody's help when they do it.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I hope this has been helpful to the community. This that drone shot is pretty impressive. You might mention that the Catholic channel, as I recall, is going to be featuring you sometime in the beginning of next year, 2022.
In the middle of February, EWTN, which is a Catholic television production company, will be playing a program. It's part of a series they call They Might Be Saints, and they talk about people who are in the pipeline for canonization in the Catholic Church. And they spent about a week here in the fall doing some filming, and it's a wonderful production on the life of Father Baker and the mission. It'll be playing, we don't have a particular date yet, but it will be advertised through EWTN and their affiliates, but it will be somewhere in the middle of February, we hear. So we're looking forward to that. That'll give us a great deal of exposure across the country.
Well, you should. We'll wish you good luck on your 5-year campaign of awareness and celebration of Our Lady of Victory, finalizing in 2025. And at the same time, we'll be celebrating the Erie Canal's 200th anniversary at 2025. So a lot of events come together that really created this community and our hallmarks, the 100th anniversary for you and the 200th anniversary for the Erie Canal. So I think we'll wrap it up, and thank you especially for today's presentation and the great visuals that you that complemented that presentation. Folks, next week we'll do something a little bit different. This is the Imagine series, inspired to some degree by the lyrics of John Lennon's music and song Imagine. So I thought to celebrate the 50th anniversary of that song, written by John Lennon in 1971, and to mark the end of the 12th season. We started in December of 2009 here at the library. It was going to be once a month. It went quickly to twice a month, and by 2011 was every week. And to mark that, I've asked two good folks that to reflect on what the lyrics and the song itself have meant to them. That's Tony Bannon and David Granville, so that both will be with us next Tuesday. Hope you'll come by. They said they were looking forward to doing this, thought it'd be great fun, and I trust it will be. So we'll hear from them next week. In the meantime, be well. I'm Dennis Galecki. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.